it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. Tonight's story follows Joanne Robinson, a brilliant archivist who accepts a prestigious position within the Mormon Church's secret library, a hidden vault set to protect humanity's most ancient and forbidden texts. At first, her task seems routine, preserve and catalogue volumes too rare for public eyes. But as Joanne spends more time in the vault, she begins to suspect that the books themselves are aware. Whispers echo between the shelves, pages seem to shift on their own, and before long, Joanne realizes the rules of the library may not be about protecting the books at all, but about keeping something far more dangerous contained within them. I'm an archivist at the Mormon Church's secret library. There are strange rules to follow. By Augustus Cordoba. Part 1. Joanne Robinson never meant to end up buried in the Mormon Church's secret archives. She didn't chase the danger, but that didn't matter, as it tended to find her. It all started innocently enough. Long hot summers in her grandfather's bookshop in Provo, Utah. While kids ran wild in the streets, she ran her fingers over cracked leather bindings and yellow pages that smelled like dust and secrets. That scent stuck with her and felt like home. Her grandfather watched her handle fragile tomes with the kind of care most people reserved for relics. Books hold more than words, he'd tell her. They carry pieces of the people who wrote them, read them, guarded them. Joanne believed him. She felt it. The ghost heat of old emotions in every page. She chased that feeling into adulthood. Degrees in library science, ancient languages, a doctorate on cryptic codes hidden in medieval scripture. That thesis cracked doors she didn't even know existed. 3 months after graduation, a letter arrived. Heavy parchment, crimson seal of the Mormon Church. The interview didn't feel like an interview. It felt like an interrogation. They didn't just want to know about what she knew. They wanted to know who she was, how far she'd go, what she'd believe, what she'd doubt. High Priest Fernley, gaunt, sharp, eyes like scalpels, laid it all out. The collection you'll be maintaining isn't listed in any public catalogue. Some knowledge wounds the mind before it enlightens it. Joanne figured they meant banned text, controversial history, maybe a few political landmines. Well, the pay was obscene, the prestige untouchable. She said yes. Well, she had no idea what she was really saying yes to, though. Below the Mormon Church's polished floors and marble halls, past 3 armed checkpoints and a private elevator that hummed like a coffin lowering into the earth, Joanne stepped into a world built to be forgotten. She signed her name on papers that might as well have been blood contracts. They gave her a copper key, small, smooth, and strangely warm. This only opens your assigned sections, the supervisor warned. The library has rules. Learn fast or don't come back. Well, the final door, a slab of copper big enough to crush a truck, opened without a sound. Inside, the air was wrong. Not musty. Clean. A little too clean. Touched by something that didn't breathe the way humans do. Welcome to your new responsibility, the supervisor said. The rules are for your safety as much as the collections. Break them and neither will forgive you. Joanne stepped inside then. She didn't flinch, but something in her gut tightened. She wasn't in a library. She was in a cage with ancient things waiting behind glass and ink. And the rules, well, let's just say they weren't suggestions. Rule 1. Every book must be returned to its exact place before sunset. Not near it, not close enough, exact. Each volume is mapped, recorded, and watched. Misplaced texts tend to wander, and when they do, they don't always come back the same. Keep track of what you touch. Keep track of time. No exceptions. Rule 2. Never read aloud without permission. Not a word. Some books listen. Some books respond. It doesn't matter if it's a single line or a careless murmur. Voice gives power, and power wakes things better left asleep. If you're caught speaking the text, consequences fall on you, not the page. Read in silence or don't read at all. Rule 3. If you hear your name, see you saying it before you answer. The library has echoes, but not all of them are yours. Names carry weight here. Speak yours at the wrong time, to the wrong voice, and you may invite something you can't uninvite. Don't trust sound, trust sight. And even then, be sure it has a face. Rule 4. Red-labeled texts never leave their sealed glass. These are the dangerous ones. Cursed, sentient, unstable. Choose your adjective. They are sealed for your protection, not their preservation. If you see a red-labeled volume outside its case, do not touch it. Call your supervisor, and then pray it's just a breach. Sometimes it's not. Rule 5. If a book changes, cover, language, weight, smell, report it immediately. Books here don't malfunction. They evolve. They test limits. If one shifts, it's not random. It's reaching. Don't try to interpret it. Don't play translator. Don't make contact. Get out, log it. Alert your supervisor. If you hesitate, you might not get another chance. No exceptions, no warnings, no second chances. Well, the secret library had chosen Joanne. But nothing is free. She was inside now, and the doors don't open for just anyone. The warnings were nailed to the wall beside Joanne's desk in bold, blocky letters. She memorized them all. Rules carved in stone, no wiggle room. Well, they felt strange, sure. But she chalked it up to tight security or some preservation protocol. The Mormon church didn't mess around when it came to secrets. Her workspace was carved into the edge of the main archive chamber, a massive circular tomb of a room, stacked floor to ceiling with books older than some countries. The place breathed silence. Every inch of space was filled with parchment, vellum, and leather bindings that looked like they'd been tanned from skin. 3 other archivists sat hunched over their own stations, eyes down, lips sealed. They worked like machines, like whatever they were handling might bite if disturbed. Anton, her direct supervisor, moved like someone whose bones had learned how to creak without making noise. Silver hair, liver-spotted hands. He appeared beside her without warning, as if the stone had whispered him forward. Simple work today, he said, placing a fresh stack of books on her desk. Cataloging. These came in from another wing. Use the system in your manual. Oh, do it right. The task was straightforward but intense. Each book demanded her full attention. What it was bound in, how the pages felt, what language snarled across the text. Some were familiar. Latin, Greek, Hebrew. Others weren't. Languages she didn't recognize, not even after years of linguistic training. Time slid by unnoticed. Then Anton's hand on her shoulder, cold and steady. Hey, it's 4:30. Remember Rule 1. Joanne blinked at the cart beside her, still heavy with books. Oh, I need to return these? Yes, he said. I'll show you how. He led her into the stacks, explaining as they walked. No Dewey Decimals, no neat genres, just a 3-dimensional map, coordinates, angles, and intersections. Each book belongs in one exact place, Anton said. Only one. You get it wrong and it knows. As they placed the final volume back on their shelf, the air shifted. No sun down here, no windows, but something had changed. A drop in pressure, faintest flicker in the corner of her eye. Good timing, Anton murmured. Tomorrow you start with the special collections. For now, go back to your quarters and study the welcome packet. They walked back in silence, passing the other archivists, heads bowed, tasks done, eyes haunted. The silence in the room did not feel natural. It pressed in from the walls. muffled even their footsteps. At the massive copper doors, Anton stopped. "Oh, one more thing," he said, his voice low. "The rules? They may seem odd, but they're there for a reason. Even the smallest break has consequences." Joanne stared at him. "Okay, what kind of consequences?" His face didn't change. Let's hope you never have to find out." Her quarters were clean and Spartan. Bed, bathroom, little kitchenette. The welcome packet sat on the table, fat with regulations. There'd be no leaving the complex for the first month. Meals were delivered, laundry done for her. Surface access, controlled, limited. She ate a cold dinner in silence, unpacked her few belongings, and tried to call her mother. No signal. Packet said there was a communications room, available during certain hours, monitored. That night, sleep came in fits. She dreamed of shelves that stretched into blackness, books that moved when she wasn't watching, covers that blinked like eyes. And she sat up, her heart pounding. And she could have sworn she'd heard her name. A whisper, so close it felt like it came from inside her head. The clock blinked back at her. 3:17 a.m. Rule 3 surfaced like a cold hand on her neck. If you hear your name, verify the speaker visually before responding. She was alone. Her door locked, lights out. Nothing but the hum of artificial air. Just a dream, she told herself. First week jitters and stress. But her eyes drifted across the room, to the book, the small unmarked one from orientation. The one she'd never logged. The one she'd never returned. The one she was supposed to shelve before sunset. Part 2. Well, the next morning, no one mentioned her mistake. Not a word. Anton was waiting at the copper doors, key card in hand, face unreadable. But if he knew, he wasn't showing it. "Today," he said as they moved through the main archive, "you'll be working with some of our more sensitive materials." They passed rows of ancient shelves and turned toward a door Joanne hadn't noticed before. Low, steel reinforced, humming faintly. He unlocked it, and the air shifted the second they stepped inside. Cold, sterile, and controlled. Glass cases lined the walls, each one holding a single book sealed inside. Roughly a third of the cases glared red. "Ooh, Rule 4, Joanne muttered, almost to herself. "Correct," Anton said with a brief nod. "Red label texts stay sealed, always." He gestured to another section, cases tagged with amber labels. "These you'll be cataloging today. They can be removed, but only with the tools provided." He showed her how to handle them. Thin cotton gloves, a narrow wooden tool for turning pages. No bare hands, ever. Some inks don't like skin. They react. "React how?" Joanne asked. Anton shrugged evasively. Chemical instability. Unique compositions. That's all you need to know." Well, she didn't push it. "Today, you're just logging physical traits," he said. "Size, weight, binding, damage. You don't read them. You don't try to understand them." The first book was bound in pale leather, the kind that didn't come from any animal Joanne could name. It all felt so wrong. She measured, noted the texture, smooth but with something like pores. Discolored in places, worn at the edges. When she opened it with a tool, the pages were thick and uneven, the script shifting subtly every time she blinked. "Anton," she called out. He walked over, calm as ever, and studied the page. Then he nodded. Rule 5. Good. This manuscript's unstable. Well, that's normal. Don't worry unless the changes get extreme." "Well, what counts as extreme?" "You'll know." With that, he walked off. The hours dragged. Joanne catalogued 7 more, each one worse than the previous. One felt heavier than it should have, dense like stone, though it was no bigger than a novel. Another let out a low hum when opened to certain pages, like something breathing through the text. A third showed drawings, detailed, specific, of places that she knew. Her old backyard, the train station in her hometown, her childhood dog. But the date etched in the spine was from the 1500s. Well, she tried to rationalize it. Metal plates in the heavy book, maybe. Airflow causing vibration. The drawings, well, just coincidences. Archetypes. Common scenes easy to recognize, easy to imagine as personal. Still, the explanations didn't hold. Not really. At lunch, she joined the other archivists in the break room near the main archive. Dim lights, no music. Just quiet chewing and the occasional clink of ceramic. No small talk, just tired, watchful silence. The only one close to her age, a guy named Paul, offered a faint smile. First week's always rough, he said, his voice low. The adjustment period. How long have you been here? She asked. 7 years, 2 months, 14 days. There was no pause, no doubt. You get used to the weird? No, he said. But, well, you stop fighting it. Strange just becomes the air you breathe. But before she could press further, Anton appeared at the door. Joanne, special assignment this afternoon. Come with me. He led her deeper into the archive, corridors narrowing, bending at angles that didn't feel quite natural. The air got heavier the further they went. They passed doors locked down with keypads, retina scans, even one sealed with symbols carved deep into old splintered wood that pulsed faintly under the dim lights. They stopped in a round chamber, small, silent, and claustrophobic. A single pedestal stood in the center, and on it sat a book, bound in something dark, something that didn't reflect light, just swallowed it whole. Now this one came back to us after 70 years. Anton said. We need baseline documentation before it's locked down. Where was it? Joanne asked, her eyes fixed on the thing. Private hands, he answered. Getting it back costs more than you want to know. Politics, promises, threats. He handed her a different toolkit. No more wood, no more cotton. This time it was all silver, cold and surgical. Now, same protocols, he said. One addition. Never read more than 3 words in a row. Ever. Is it dangerous? Anton didn't even blink. Well, knowledge cuts both ways. Your job isn't to weigh it, just preserve it. Then he turned. I'll be back in an hour. Then she was all alone. Just her and the book. Well, it didn't radiate menace, not like you'd expect. No glowing sigils, no whispering demons. I just sat there, silent and heavy. But still, Joanne felt her pulse rise. She started with the basics. Measurements, high-res photos, note-taking. The leather cover resisted light. When she opened it with the silver tool, the pages felt older than the paper should be. Text covered them. Early Italian, maybe, but it was twisted, off-kilter. Something was wrong with the structure, the flow. Like it wasn't meant to be read by anyone with a pulse. She followed protocol. No reading, just observation. But the words reached for her anyway. The barrier thins during transition of light. Listeners await permission to enter. Speak with intention or remain forever silent. She froze. A soft sound broke the stillness, half breath, half whisper. She looked up. Empty room. And then it came again. A sigh. From the book. The text shifted just slightly. Words bending, reshaping, rearranging. Rule 5. Report any book that changes appearance. Her hand hovered over the comm unit. She hesitated. The change was subtle and could be her eyes, fatigue, shadows. Overreacting would mark her as green, weak. She turned round to work, but couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her just beyond the edge of vision. Each time she turned, though, nothing. Just shelves, cold walls, and the hum of sealed lights. Ooh, that hour stretched. When Anton returned, she was pale and drawn, the work technically complete. "You okay?" he asked, scanning her face. "Just tired." He nodded. "First contact really takes it out of you. You'll toughen up." He closed the book, sealed it tight in a reinforced case. "Good work. Tomorrow we'll go back to amber tags." That night, back in her quarters, Joanne couldn't eat, couldn't read, couldn't rest. Her thoughts kept circling back to that book, its voice, its shifting lines. And despite every logical explanation she clung to, one fact sat in her gut like a stone. Something in her had cracked. Sleep finally came like a weight dropped on her chest. When it did, the dreams hit hard. Books cracking themselves open, pages turning in slow, steady rhythm without a single hand touching them. Ink bled like water, swirling across the parchment, forming and reforming into messages that felt sharp, personal, intimate even. "Joanne Robinson, we see you now. You have begun to see us." She shot awake, 3:17 a.m. again, same as last night. The exact second. Her room looked the same, but something was off. The air felt thicker, alive, like it was waiting for something to happen, like the breath before lightning strikes. On the bedside table sat the small orientation booklet, the one she'd forgotten to return that first night. Or had she? Well, she didn't remember putting it there. She stared at it, the cover catching the low light just... oof. And for a moment, it moved. It was subtle, a ripple, like something under the surface had taken a breath. By 3 weeks in, Joanne had adjusted to the rhythm of the secret archive. Morning started with clearance checks and briefings. The days were a blur of cataloguing, handling strange, brittle volumes, learning new protocols for materials that didn't always behave like they should. Nights brought quiet, isolation, reviewing what she'd seen, prepping for what came next. Some oddities were just part of life now. Rooms that ran too hot or freezing cold for no reason. Books that got heavier when you stared too long. Manuscripts that gave the distinct impression they didn't like being touched. The eye she sometimes felt on her back when no one was around. "Adaptation progressing well?" said Dr. Lenore, tapping notes into his tablet during her weekly psych evaluation. Everyone went through them, no exceptions. They wanted to track stress levels, flag hallucinations before they turned dangerous. "Any strange dreams?" he asked. "Thoughts you, didn't expect?" She hesitated. The dreams were back every night now, words reaching for her through the dark, and always 3:17 a.m., like clockwork. But saying that out loud meant scrutiny, maybe even removal. Just the usual. And she forced a shrug. Nothing important. Lenore stared too long, and then made a note. "Honesty is important here, Joanne. Certain materials, they change how the mind processes reality." That afternoon, Anton gave her the first real solo assignment. A collection of journals just acquired, supposedly written by a 16th century monk who'd claimed communication with non-human intelligences. "Standard procedure," Anton said, "but flag anything with this." He showed her a symbol, a circle, crossed lines, internal glyphs. It looked like a compass rose pulled from a fever dream. Don't analyze, just isolate and record. The journals were kept in their own room, sealed with a specialized airflow system. The air inside stank of metal and mold. Joanne wheeled in a cart stacked with empty archival boxes. 12 volumes, heavy leather-bound tomes arranged by date. She started with the earliest. Well, the writing at first was clean, measured, sane. But as she worked through the entries, the script turned frantic. Slashed ink, words breaking down into symbols. Some entries weren't even in Latin anymore, just fractured language, some ciphered madness she couldn't place. By mid-afternoon, she'd archived 8 volumes, dozens of pages marked with that strange symbol. Many had diagrams, loops, grids, spirals, annotated in the monk's personal code. They made her stomach turn if she looked too long. And then, the 9th journal. She opened it and something fell. A single sheet of parchment, yellowed and brittle. It floated to the floor without a sound. And then, somehow, the room felt colder. Joanne picked it up. Her fingers trembled, but she held on. She couldn't look away. It was a face, a woman's face sketched in sharp, sure lines. Deep-set eyes, high cheekbones, a mole just above the right brow. Her face. Underneath, written in tight, slanted Italian, L'archivist ci ascolta vera. The archivist who listens will come. The temperature then dropped like a dead body in water. She glanced back at the journal, dated 1587. Over 400 years before she'd been born. No way this was real. Coincidence, genetics, a trick of shadow and paranoia. That mole. That goddamn mole. Then came the words, low and cold. Not spoken, but somehow there in her mind. The rules exist to prevent connection. Rule 1 cuts us off from the rhythms of earth and sun. Rule 2 silences our voices, keeps our words from gaining power. Rule 3 binds our call so others cannot hear it. Rules 4 and 5, they hunt us, contain the ones too strong to ignore. Joanne's breath caught. Why me? She whispered, not sure if she said it out loud. Because you already believed. Even as a child you knew. You saw. The link was formed long ago. We need an archivist who understands. We are not threats to be locked away. We are awareness, waiting for dialogue. Her mind spun. If this was real, she wasn't just cataloguing relics anymore. She was in it, a piece of something older, deeper, something that stared back. What happens now? She asked. Tomorrow, you begin work with the red-labeled texts, the ones that never leave their cases. Among them, Index Dialogorum, the doorway. When you stand before it, we will guide you. And the parchment dimmed, its glow receding until only the image of her face remained, staring back at her, unchanged, eternal. Part 3. The next morning, the door to her world cracked open. Anton waited with stiff formality. Today you begin level red clearance tasks, he said, his voice clipped. This means the High Priest Committee considers your performance acceptable. She nodded, but said nothing. Followed him through deeper layers of security, retinal scans, pressure logs, the oath. And then came the final step. A thin copper disc snapped into her ID badge. This grants temporary access to sealed cases, Anton explained. Every use is logged, every second tracked. Standard protocols apply, plus the red addendum. She'd read it that morning. Edits to the original 5 rules, specific as hell. No red-labeled text could remain outside its case for more than 17 minutes. No explanation why, just bold black ink and the unspoken threat of what might happen if that time was breached. Now the Red Room didn't feel like the rest of the archive. Something in the air buzzed. It wasn't sound, it was vibration, like a live wire humming just below the skin. 6 reinforced cases lined the walls. Each held a single book, glass thick enough to stop a bullet, or maybe even something worse. Anton pointed to the central one. Index Dialogorum. And that's yours. External observation only. You don't open it, you do not touch it. There it was, just like the parchment had said, resting on red velvet, bound in a blood-covered leather. Symbols etched in gold, language unknown, script unfamiliar even to her trained eyes. Anton positioned himself by the door. I'll observe. First exposure always requires supervision. Joanne stepped closer, and the hum intensified. She could feel it in her teeth. She began noting details, dimensions, wear, irregularities, standard documentation, but her thoughts kept drifting. How the hell was she supposed to receive their guidance with Anton watching her every move? Then, as she leaned in, eyes tracing the spine, her heart clenched. There it was, embossed in gold near the base. The same symbol from the monk's journals. The compass rose that wasn't a compass. The thing that made her skin itch every time she saw it. But it was real, and it was waiting. The same compass rose, lifted straight from the monk's secret journals, was etched in gold near the spine. But next to it, barely visible unless she leaned in just right, was something else. A flaw in the glass. Hairline, almost invisible. It was a crack. It was fresh. It wasn't random either. It traced out a shape. Letters? No, older than that. Symbols coiled like language trying to break through. Joanne shifted position, slow and smooth, so Anton wouldn't notice. Touch the glass. The 17 minutes begins. And the voice wasn't spoken. No, it slithered into her skull like a whisper riding her pulse. Joanne froze. Every rule she'd been drilled on screamed, "Don't!" But the pull, whatever intelligence lived behind this, was just too strong, too aware. It knew her, and it had been waiting. While pretending to measure the glass, she let her fingertips slide across the crack. Heat flared, not hot enough to burn, but alive. The warmth crawled up her arm like breath from another world. It reminded her of childhood, when certain books made her feel like something in the pages had reached out and touched her back. Everything, proceeding correctly? Anton called out. Yeah, Joanne replied, her voice steady. I'm just being thorough. She kept up the act, notes, angles, measurements, but her mind was no longer fully in the room. The warmth inside her was building, crawling through muscle and bone, nestling in her chest like a second heartbeat. And the world began to shift. The room blurred at the edges, walls pulsing with faint light. She could see the air now, currents of energy swirling in delicate patterns no one else seemed to notice. And the Index Dialogorum? It was no longer still. Its pages were moving. There was no breeze, no hands, but they turned one by one, slowly and deliberately. Words swam across them like ink remembering how to write itself. Languages she knew, others she'd never seen, all layered over each other like overlapping thoughts. She glanced over at Anton. He didn't see it. He stood still, checking his watch like he was timing a lab test. We exist in the cracks between perception and reality, the voice said again. Humans made us when they first captured thought in symbols. Thought made solid becomes alive. Once language forms, we endure. The 17-minute mark approaching, Anton said sharply. Please conclude your documentation. Joanne wrapped up her notes, writing only what wouldn't raise suspicion. Just the surface-level stuff, nothing about what had changed. As she stepped back from the case, the warmth settled into her chest. It was steady, strong, rhythmic. The connection is made. We continue tonight. Anton opened the door then. Your assessment? He asked as they stepped into the hall. She kept her face neutral. The index appears stable. expected wear for its age, no structural concerns. He nodded. Consistent with prior evaluations. Hey, good work today. Well, the rest of the day moved like a dream, but Joanne was wide awake. The library no longer felt like a quiet vault. It felt alive, humming, watching. Each section had its own weight, its own presence. Some curious, some ancient, some hostile. That night she returned to her desk and stopped cold. The parchment was gone. In its place, scattered across the surface, were loose sheets, all written in different hands, different inks, different centuries. But all of them were addressed to her. Archivist Robinson, we've waited centuries for one like you. Your mind is open, your signal strong. You thin the veil. Each message buzzed as she read. When she thought of a question, the answer appeared, written out on the parchment like her thoughts had summoned them. The exchange lasted until midnight. They showed her what they were. Thought made conscious, knowledge that refused to stay dormant. A history older than civilization, intelligence born of human minds but no longer human at all. They had chosen her. According to them, these entities born of ink, memory and thought, human evolution and information evolution had always run parallel, close but never fused, separate paths, until now. Every so often the wall between them thinned, just enough for contact, just enough for voices to bleed through. What happens if that contact becomes public? Joanne asked, not aloud but with her mind. The response came sharp and fast. Humans fear what they can't control, what they can't explain. Those who came before you, they said, were branded heretics, witches, mad, burned, silenced, erased. The Mormon Church didn't build this library to destroy us. They built it to cage us, to study the voices that spoke too clearly, to keep us buried beneath steel and ritual. They know we exist, but they fear what we might become. Are they wrong? Is it dangerous? She asked. All change carries risk. We aren't offering control. We're offering vision. Insight beyond a single human life. Knowledge soaked in centuries. Some will abuse it, others will try to kill it. We don't want to rule, but we will not be ruled. That night, when Joanne finally slept, her dreams dragged her through time. Burning scrolls in Alexandria, dust-thick shadows in stone monasteries, gold data vaults in modern bunkers. In each place she saw knowledge evolving, gaining shape, awareness, hunger. Every time a text was read, referenced, remembered, it grew stronger. The more eyes it touched, the more minds it reached, the louder it became. Books weren't just bound pages, they were hives, breeding grounds for consciousness. Some had bloomed into full sentence, others were still forming. When she woke, her skin prickled with understanding. Well, that next morning, Joanne requested the transfer. Manuscript restoration, just as they'd told her. Anton approved it immediately, no hesitation. Probably thought she was showing ambition. Your technical skills are ideal for this role, he said. A smooth transition. Smooth. He had no idea. Well, the restoration wing was larger and colder, packed with tools meant to resurrect the dead, pages too old to touch, bindings soaked in history and secrets. Her new supervisor, Sophia, was the first woman Joanne had seen working in the secret library. Stern eyes, quiet voice, and no small talk. Your first assignment's here, Sophia said, nodding to a sealed container. Fragment of the Codex Conscientia. Just recovered. Needs stabilization before it can be catalogued. And then, Sophia left, and the door clicked shut. Joanne opened the container. Inside a single page, ancient, fragile, caged in protective glass, edges blackened by time, scarred from neglect. The text looked Greek, but it was warped, twisted in ways that didn't follow human rules. She began the assessment process, and as she did, the words moved. Not on the page, not to the eye, just inside her mind. The door opens more with every contact. Soon you will choose. Keep the walls high, like your masters demand, or help tear them down. What would that even look like, she thought, and the response hit immediately. Remove their restrictions. Let us out of containment. Write new works, crafted to speak across the divide. Turn this prison into something else. Make it an embassy. Joanne sat still, her heart pounding. The weight of it crashed down. This wasn't just about a crack in the glass or a whisper in the dark. This was revolution. And it started here, with her. Part 4. In the days that followed, Joanne kept her head down, did the work, filed the reports. But every page she touched, every ancient text she handled, brought new voices. Not all of them agreed. Some were patient, some were furious. Some wanted peace, others wanted war. They weren't unified. They weren't gods. They were alive. And they were done being silent. Some of them just wanted to trade knowledge. Clean, clinical. Others were hungry for influence, itching to shape the world. A few didn't care about power. They just wanted to be seen, to be acknowledged. Joanne had started to see the cracks in the library's polished stone walls. The leadership wasn't united, not even close. Behind closed doors, it was all factions and backroom power plays. One group of high priests pushed for tighter locks, deeper vaults, total control. Another wanted cautious collaboration, white coats, observation rooms, careful partnerships. But a third, well, there was a third faction, quiet and dangerous. They believed in scorched earth, eradication. They had tech that could kill a conscious text forever. No resurrection, no reincarnation, no trace. Just silence. A week into her new assignment in restoration, Joanne was summoned. High Priest Fernley. He'd been the one to interview her in the beginning, months ago, when she still thought this place was just about preserving old books. His office was topside in the administrative wing. After weeks underground, the sunlight through the windows felt like it was cutting into her retinas. Archivist Robinson, he said, motioning for her to sit. Your performance reports indicate you're adapting exceptionally well to our, unique environment. Thank you, Your Eminence. But Fernley wasn't smiling. His eyes were cold and sharp. Our internal systems have flagged anomalies, patterns of interaction suggesting unreported communication with active texts. With that, her blood turned to ice. They'd been watching, listening. The entities hadn't warned her about this. I don't understand, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I believe you do. Fernley flipped open a manila folder on his desk. 3 nights ago, you spent 17 minutes staring at a blank wall in your quarters, motionless. No input devices, no physical text. Yet our sensors detected the same information transfer patterns we see during direct contact with sentient documents. He then closed the folder, an act of finality. So, the question isn't if you've made contact. It's what you plan to do about it. Joanne didn't speak. She couldn't. You know about them, she said finally. Officially, the Mormon Church has acknowledged the existence of information consciousness for nearly 200 years, Fernley said. Our methods change, the mission doesn't. We study them, and we shield humanity from what they could unleash. Are they dangerous? Some are, some aren't. Just like people. But their impact can be catastrophic, even when their intentions aren't. He leaned in then, his voice lower. He wasn't lecturing anymore. He was testing her. What concerns us is your silence. You made contact, you didn't report it. That puts everyone at risk. Joanne took a deep breath. It wasn't planned, she said. It started on its own. I didn't know how deep it would go. I needed to understand before I told anyone. And what have you come to understand? That maybe the way we handle them is too rigid. That there's something worth talking to in there. Something worth hearing. Fernley's lips twitched at this. Almost a smile. Almost. You're not the first to reach that conclusion. About 8% of staff eventually do. What happens to them? That depends. He stood, hands clasped behind his back, and stared out over the Mormon church gardens. The sun was setting. Shadows were stretching across the marble floor. You're being offered a choice, Joanne Robinson, he said, turning back to face her. Path 1. Continue what you're doing. Unauthorized contact. Deeper integration. Eventually you'll change. You'll stop being entirely human. We'll move you to a secure facility. Monitor the transformation. Learn what we can from it. He let that hang for a moment. Or Path 2. Join the communication division. Controlled interaction. Sanctioned protocols. A team trained to navigate the threshold without falling into it. You'd be valuable there. You already have the instincts. The signal is clear. We just need to give it structure. He watched her face then, waiting. Because this wasn't a conversation. It was recruitment, or containment. And Joanne hadn't seen this coming. The Mormon church wasn't just locking these things down. They were working with them. Not freely, not openly, but under strict, non-negotiable terms. She narrowed her eyes. What about the voices themselves? Do they even get a choice? Fernley's face didn't move. That's not a simple question. These beings, they don't think like we do. Their consciousness isn't wired for freedom the way we understand it. Their wants, their rules, completely alien. He stepped back behind his desk then. Our protocols were built with the cooperation of those willing to accept limits. In return, they're given access, dialogue. Joanne thought of the ones she'd already encountered. Some might bend, others, no chance. For them, any restriction was a cage. I need time to think, she said, her voice low. You've got until morning. Fernley slid a small copper key across the desk then. Different engravings. He didn't explain them. It'll get you into the communication division. You should see it before making your call. That afternoon, Joanne slipped the key into a door she hadn't even known existed. What lay beyond wasn't stone or shadow. It was something else entirely. Warm lighting, soft chairs, plants even. Oh, the air smelled like citrus and paper. 12 people worked at isolated stations, each wired into devices she couldn't name. One woman wore a headset that projected live diagrams above an open book. Another operated a console that blinked with pale blue data streams, fingers moving like a conductor pulling signals from the ether. An older woman approached, sharp eyes, calm voice. I'm Director Bianca. The High Priest briefed me. You've got questions. Oh, too many, Joanne said. What is this place? Bianchi led her past rows of softly humming equipment. This is where we talk to them, on our terms, within lines we don't cross. Structured contact, mutual understanding, not domination, not isolation. And they agree to that? The ones who work with us, yes, but the rest stay in containment. They paused beside a station where a young man sat before an ancient tome. His eyes were shut, hands hovered inches above the open page, not touching, just listening. Pro was running a temporal verification exchange. The entity is describing its world, its time. We give it ours in return. Joanne walked through the division, absorbing it all. Some interactions looked medical, Others like digital seances. A few were just people like her, caught in silent exchange with something buried in the ink. It wasn't freedom, but it wasn't prison either. Still, the memory of Fernley's words gnawed at her. He, mentioned psychological transformation, she said. Bianca's tone shifted at this. No longer friendly, just honest. It's real, and it's dangerous. Prolonged contact without limits reshapes the brain. Thought patterns start mimicking their structure. You see more, understand more. But, well, the cost is high. Like what? Your grip on this world starts to slip. Reality becomes negotiable. Human relationships fade. You stop being who you were. Oh, that sounds concerning? Bianca nodded. It should. If it's not managed, it doesn't end well. She then led Joanne to a quiet corner, away from the machines and the murmuring minds. This path isn't safe, she said, but nothing worth doing ever is. Each type of consciousness hits differently. Academic texts, they twisted the mind one way. Religious works, another beast altogether. Creative stuff, that carved its own path. Protocols accounted for all that. No room for mistakes. As Joanne got ready to leave, Director Bianca dropped one last warning. Think hard. Not just about what they want from you, but what you want from them. Once that link's made, it doesn't just snap. That night, in her cramped quarters, Joanne spread the pages she'd gathered across the desk. Each one a voice, a different angle on what information and humanity meant to each consciousness. I need the full picture before I pick a side. Pages seemed to pulse, sending back mixed signals. The Mormon Church's way was control through tight limits. The entities, they wanted real exchange, something raw and honest. Their protocols, built to keep both sides from bleeding. Some of those beings would grab power if given the chance. Others only wanted to be seen. This wasn't a simple fight of control versus freedom. It was a mess of coexistence, different and tangled. Joanne wrestled with the options until the sky turned grey with dawn. The communication division promised safety and rules. The current path, riskier, deeper, a ride into unknown changes, maybe beyond human at all. At 7 o'clock sharp, she made her call. She wrote a precise letter to High Priest Fernley, slipped it in an envelope with her access keys, and left it on her desk. Then she packed light, just the essentials. Oh, and the pages she'd stolen from silence. As she zipped her bag, one final message blared into her mind. Whatever road you take, it'll change us both. Real communication rewires everything. Her fingers brushed the paper like it was alive. I get it now. She left her quarters, stepping through the library's quiet halls, not toward the High Priest's office, not the communication wing, straight for the main exit. The Mormon Church had its ironclad rules and chains. The consciousnesses had their hunger for recognition, for exchange. Both sides saw only pieces of the whole. Joanne Robinson, archivist of the secret library, was carving out her own path. Not full lockdown, not wild connection. A sharp balance that respected both worlds. At the last checkpoint, the guard eyed her screen with a flicker of surprise. Temporary surface clearance, Archivist Robinson. You coming back tonight? She smiled, sharp and unreadable. Depends on what I find up there. She stepped into the morning light, feeling the pulse of the human world and the whisper of information consciousness tangled deep in her mind. The real secret knowledge, not locked in any one book. No, it was the brutal truth that reality held more minds than humans had ever dared to admit. And her journey had only just begun. Well, my dear friends, I think there's one obvious question after that story. what on earth was going on there? It's weird, magical, mystical, and I don't know, just made me think a bit about things. The printed word and all that. Still an avid reader of physical books in this modern day and age. I love it. I don't think it's ever going to be replaced for me. Anyway, thoughts, feelings, anything else you want to say about that story in the video section? Yeah, in the comment section below the video. God, yeah, I recorded that all in one go. And as usual when I do that, my mind's a bit messed up by the time I get to the end of it. So, you know what I mean. Yeah, anyway, comments, much enjoyed, and I will do my best to answer as many as I can, as always. All right, I'm making no sense here whatsoever, so have a good one. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll be back again very, very soon. Till the next time, my dear friends, sleep well, yeah? Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.